Hey, good afternoon to you. 506 here, News Talk 105.9 WMAL, where we're making sense of the news. Coming up on the show, we've got Tommy Tuberville, the senator from Alabama. Coach will join us at 5:30. And you can join us at 888-630-9625, 888-630-WMAL. John Podesta is currently working in the White House. Remember him? He's the guy whose emails ended up going public because he made his password, and the rest of us got to read his email. And it was full of all sorts of nonsense. Podesta, from the Clinton orbit, and involved in the Steele dossier and so many other dastardly schemes, trying to convince the Western states to secede from the Union should Trump win the 2020 election. Yeah, that was all John Podesta. Podesta's one of those guys at the upper echelon of the Democrat Party with the establishment, who does whatever he can to manipulate the outcome of an election through non-democratic means, non-constitutional republic means. So John Podesta currently works in the White House because, all of that is no barrier if you're a Democrat. He's a senior advisor to the president, but he's taking over as Joe Biden's climate czar when John Kerry leaves later this spring. Now, Kerry's not going anywhere, really. He's bringing his Botoxed face to the campaign. He's just doing the same thing he always did. They're just changing who signs his checks for a few months. So that's the plan. So the pieces it's not like Podesta being added to the administration. They're just moving the furniture around and telling you that something big has changed. But here's where we do have to throw a flag, a meaningful one. Podesta's being given the climate czar job. And what country is hurt the most by the United States decision to go all in on climate policies? What country? That would be our country, the United States, hurt the most. What country is helped the most by our decision to go all in on delusional, deranged, destructive climate policies? That would be China. China has helped the most for any number of reasons. One, of course, we priced our own manufacturing out of the market through all of this by diminishing the available energy and crushing the ability to produce stuff here in the United States. We export all of that money so that we can import all of the goods out of somewhere that produces them more cheaply. That would be China, with no environmental restrictions, real or imagined, on the way that they produce their products. They destroy the actual environment in China using good old-fashioned pollution, not carbon dioxide, like toxic pollution, in the pursuit of all of the minerals and resources necessary to produce cheap plastic products that we buy here in the United States. And this vicious cycle continues, including, by the way, the green industry, which is practically entirely dependent on China for minerals that go into solar panels and the blades that make up the wind turbines and on, the batteries themselves, on and on and on. Comes from China. So China has a lot to gain with America having a gun to its head by people like John Podesta, who's now going to be the climate czar for the Biden administration. Well, you should know that John Podesta's brother is Tony Podesta. You may be familiar with that. And Tony Podesta, guess who he's paid by? Just take a wild, stinking guess. Who pays Tony Podesta millions of dollars? If you answered the Chinese Communist Party, you'd be completely correct. Tony Podesta has been lobbying on behalf of China's Huawei, their giant telecommunications company, for the last few years to the tune of $1 million a year. He makes $1 million a year from Huawei, and that's just at least one source, to lobby the Biden White House on behalf of that company, and by extension, of course, the Chinese Communist Party, who would like to see that company everywhere for obvious reasons. China is not shy about using its technology to surveil people all over the planet. Podesta, the New York Post published recently, well-connected Democrat Tony Podesta raked in $1 million last year lobbying the Biden White House on behalf of Chinese telecommunications giant Huawei. Podesta started working for Huawei in August as the company attempts to free itself of Trump administration-rallied restrictions on the brand. That's right, Trump restricted them. Podesta's brother is Democrat Party bigwig John Podesta, who was Hillary's 2016 campaign chairman after working as a White House advisor to President Barack Obama and as chief of staff to President Bill Clinton. Oh, wow, this guy's a regular Forrest Gump. He shows up in every Democrat presidency. What was the name of the guy in Willy Wonka who controlled everything and brought all the kids in? Slugsworth? Was that the guy? It's like, yeah, this guy's everywhere. He's constantly lurking in the background. According to public disclosure forms released this week, Tony Podesta earned $500,000 lobbying the executive office of the president on issues related to telecommunication services and impacted trade issues in the fourth quarter of 2021. In the third quarter of 2021, Podesta disclosed another $500,000 from Huawei to lobby the White House office on issues related to telecommunication services and impacted trade issues. Put differently, on behalf of China. On behalf of China. So, that's what we've got. It's Slugworth, by the way. Arthur Slugworth is the name of the creepy dude who's lurking as all the kids find their golden tickets so they can go visit Willy Wonka's chocolate factory. John Podesta is the Slugworth of our story. All right. So, except there's no chocolate factory. It's just misery ahead. So, that's what's happening with the Podestas. Now, Marco Rubio, the senator from Florida, has noticed this. He expressed today on X. He said President Biden has chosen the brother of a registered foreign agent who represents Huawei, a company that spies on behalf of China, as the next climate envoy, the point person for appeasing China. No wonder our adversaries do not fear us anymore. So that's what's happening with John Podesta, the White House, the new person in charge of controlling the weather here, who's going to be only further enriching China. That's what's happening there. Also happening today, what happens if you do the hanky-panky in a Senate conference room and you're a Democrat and your partner in your crime is a Democrat? What happens? Oh, by the way, I left out, and you film a pornographic video to commemorate the occasion. What happens? Well, the answer to that question finally came out today. U.S. Capitol Police say they will not be charging anyone in the sex video incident in a Senate hearing room. That's Jake Sherman's tweet today, his post on X. He is with Punchbowl News. Here's the statement from the U.S. Capitol Police. For now, we are closing so you're saying there's a chance. We'll see. We're closing the investigation into the facts and circumstances surrounding a sex video that was recorded inside the Hart Office Building on the morning of Wednesday, December 13th. After consulting with federal and local prosecutors, as well as doing a comprehensive investigation and review of possible charges, it was determined that, despite a likely violation of congressional policy, I love this. It's still an open question. There may have been. It was likely that they violated. Okay, if it didn't violate a congressional policy, perhaps it's time to add that rule that you're not supposed to have sex on the table at the United States Senate. There is currently no evidence that a crime was committed. How could that be? Now, if you were to perform this particular act in any location in America, would you be running afoul of the law? I'm not talking about behind the privacy of your closed doors. I'm talking about in like a public park or at a courthouse or just take your pick. Are you committing a crime? Well, yeah, there's people who have been put on sex registries for this kind of stuff. So these guys go inside of a Senate conference room on top of Amy Klobuchar's desk. They get away with it. They film the whole thing. It goes public. And there is, quote, no evidence that a crime was committed. Although the hearing room was not open to the public at the time, the congressional staffer involved had access to the room. The two people of interest, this is the best part, the two people of interest were not cooperative, nor were the elements of any of the possible crimes met. Oh, okay, so is that how it works? So if you're not cooperative with the police when they're investigating, you get to do crimes. You're fine. The congressional staffer, who has since resigned from his job, exercised his Fifth Amendment right to remain silent and refused to talk to us. Our investigators are willing to review new evidence should any come to light. Well, I'm not sending you any more evidence. You just get your chuckles out of that because you just said there's no elements of a crime. What are you talking about? The United States Capitol Police. There's no spokesman on this. It just says broadly, the United States Capitol Police. So that's the standard. If you're a Democrat, you can do that. If you are a Republican, though, if you're a Trump supporter who puts your feet on Nancy Pelosi's desk, well, there's a different fate in store for you. Take a listen.
The Arkansas man who was photographed on January 6th with his feet up on Nancy Pelosi's desk was sentenced yesterday. He got 4.5 years in prison. Richard Barnett was convicted in January on 8 charges.
8 charges. The guy, he put his feet on Nancy Pelosi's desk, on a congressional desk, and he was sentenced to 4.5 years in prison. These two Democrats do the nasty on Amy Klobuchar's desk, and there was no crime committed. Are you sick and tired of it yet? You should be. You should be. This is get totally offensive. And as always, not my phrase, but one of my favorites. It's not hypocrisy. It's hierarchy. They're just better than us. They get to do whatever they want. They get to do just whatever they want. All of this stuff that these guys are doing, though. There's a story going today, like tearing down, like just doing whatever they want, breaking whatever laws they want. And it's totally, and you've got Democrats just enable all of this, and all of the people who are associated with the Democrat Party, that they just know they can get away with all this. This is why you keep seeing all of these high profile figures. They think, oh yeah, I could hire my lover and then pay him $2 million and then he'll spend money on me and then I won't disclose it to the public. I'm going to get away with it. It's going to be totally fine. This is why Democrats will do this. This is why you have squad members who just yesterday, voted against banning terrorists from immigrating to the United States. 2 squad members yesterday. The rest of the House was like, yeah, no, that's crazy. We can't let terrorists come. 2 squad members yesterday voted. They're like, no, we can allow terrorists to come to the United States. That's insanity. Illegal immigrants literally attacking cops in New York City, and then when they leave jail, popping up their middle fingers to the waiting press and saying, up yours, I can do whatever I want. I can do whatever I want. This is what the Democrats have created. Tearing down statues in American cities, destroying them. Are there legal consequences to that? Is there any sort of... No, not at all. Right now in Virginia, and I'm going to try and get to this in some more detail tomorrow, but right now in Virginia, Democrats are considering a bill to make it so that if you spend 15 years in prison, after that, you may be able to be sprung out of jail. That's what Democrats want to do. They want to make it so that hardened criminals, people who commit heinous crimes with very long prison sentences, maybe we'll just let them go out for 15 years. Who cares? That's what a decent person would do. What? Ask the victims' families about this. And they're speaking out about this. They hate this. But I do want to leave you with a bit of a good news. A story that caught my attention. So if we're going to be subjected to all this chaos, then we have every bit of right to do a little bit of chaos of our own. You know what I mean? Like if we have to, if the whole world is going to crash down around us and they're going to treat us like garbage, if they're going to allow criminals to run rampant, maybe a little like Boston Tea Party style action needs to take place. I'm going to tell you about some boys in Connecticut who just did this very thing. It is hilarious, and I think you're going to love it. I promise you, the America you know and love is still there, and it can be found this week in a high school in Connecticut. In Connecticut, they're mandating that tampon dispensers be put up in the boys' restrooms because that's how crazy things have gotten. And at Brookfield High School, they installed a tampon dispenser in the boys' room at 9:30 in the morning last Wednesday. By 9:52, just 22 minutes later, it was torn off the wall and all of the tampons were littered on the floor inside of the boys' restroom. Isn't that, what a heartwarming story. So the boys ripped this thing off the wall, throw it to the ground, and they said they're not a part of this. Now, the principal, who's a loser, put out a message to the people, to the community, and said this. You ready for this? This is the letter, the email he sent out. Good morning. An informational version of this email updating everyone on changes in bathrooms was scheduled to go out at the end of the day today, but due to an incident in the boys' bathroom this morning, I need to send it now, he said. This was 10:44, so literally less than an hour after they discovered tampons littered all over the floor of the boys' room. State-mandated tampons in the boys' room. There is a law in Connecticut that states, the principal goes on, On and after September 1st, 2023, each local and regional Board of Education shall provide free menstrual products as defined in Section 18-69E of the General Statutes, blah, blah, blah. And they said it has to be installed in at least one men's restroom. He said, while we continue to discuss the best possible location for the all-gender bathroom, a dispenser with menstrual products was installed in the boys' bathroom near the main office. The installation was completed at 9:30. By 9:52 a.m., tampons were on the floor, the newly installed distribution box was ripped off the wall, along with the masonry anchors, and the distribution box itself was destroyed. And then he writes that he capitalizes the DIS in the following words. Disheartened, he writes, dismayed, and disgusted are the adjectives that come to mind. According to state law, we will reinstall this box in the boys' bathroom, he goes on. I'm aware that the law says men's bathroom, but the actions today that led to vandalism and destruction of property were the work of immature boys, not men, the principal whined. We have a list of suspects. We believe we know who is responsible. There will be consequences. This is the most egregious instance of vandalism and destruction of property in recent weeks. Other instances including breaking stall door hardware, soap dispensers ripped off the walls, and various objects stuffed in toilets. It generally only happens in boys' bathrooms, and it needs to stop. We are better than this. It's so funny. Oh, and in case you were wondering, this jerk of a principal, he puts his pronouns in his signature. Mark Belanda, pronouns he, him. You sure about that, Mark? You sure about that? He, him? Good for you, boys. Keep up the good work. You know what they say. It's not violence. You know, it's just property destruction is fine. That's what they told us. It's not violence. Heck, the school's got insurance. They'll be fine. Tear those tampon dispensers down. Welcome back to the Vince Coglianese Show. Joining me now, the senator from the great state of Alabama, Senator Tommy Tuberville, is joining us. Senator, good to have you back with us. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Great to be on.
We've got, as you know, millions upon millions of illegal immigrants who've come into the United States under the Biden administration. And this week, you are signing on to some legislation to address the electoral implications of that. What is that? What's the initiative here?
Well, there's several reasons that the Biden administration is overwhelming our country with illegals. Number one, they're looking for votes. They're looking for votes to take over Texas. That's obvious. Texas is fighting back, but they're also sending people all over the country. When you vote for districting in your state, you count people. You don't count citizens. And so what they're trying to do is get more congressional seats all over the country to turn red districts blue. It will work if we continue to let this happen. Hopefully we change directions here, but that's two of the alternatives that they're looking at to try to make sure that the Democrats retain power for a long time.
Right. And they're not shy about this at all. In fact, 2 years ago, there was a congresswoman under the Biden administration, Democrat Congresswoman Yvette Clarke, said out loud that she wants illegals to come to her district for redistricting purposes. Here she is. Take a listen to this.
I'm from Brooklyn, New York. We have a diaspora that can absorb a significant number of these migrants. And when I hear colleagues talk about, the doors of the inn being closed, no room in the inn, I'm saying, I need more people in my district, but just for redistricting purposes. And those members could clearly fit here.
So there you go. You occasionally have some of these Democrats admitting out loud that this is an electoral scheme.
Yeah, they don't care. They're to the point now where they feel like that they got the upper hand. That's the reason this election is so important coming up next November. Because if they win next November, you can pretty much count the Republican Party out in terms of ever having any kind of majority. Might get a slim majority in one of the House or the Senate, but it's going to be very, very hard when they start this redistricting.
Yes. So your initiative this week, the bill that you have introduced alongside your colleagues in the Senate, is to stop counting illegal immigrants in the census when it comes to electoral college votes.
Well, exactly. How about counting people that pay taxes, the true citizens of this country? What an idea, right?
Amazing.
That's what we should be doing. And of course, the Democrats will fight that tooth and nail. And again, if they have the majority, they'll win that out.
Yeah.
So again, that is so important. Why we have to go out and vote, and we have to go out and vote and get these crazies out of office.
Well, another example of why you're correct on this is, remember, Donald Trump as president attempted to add a question to the census about whether or not people were here legally or illegally. The left lost it, and they went to court and they sued to stop that question from even being asked on the census. It really gives the whole game away.
Oh, yeah. I mean, this is what this is all about up here. It's about retaining power and getting an edge in anything you possibly can do. Change the rule book, change the Constitution. Don't go by the real laws. Is what, people say, what about this border bill? It sounds like it's pretty good. Wait a minute. We have the laws on the books already. They're not going to go by them anyway because they want more people. That's what this is all about.
Yes. Now, in terms of the electoral implications, I'm looking at all of this survey data this week that shows in the swing states in particular that this illegal immigration is rising to become the top issue all across the country. And as a result, Donald Trump is dominating in the swing states right now. And and of course, it comes as no surprise that it's exactly at this moment now where Joe Biden is beginning to refer to the border as a crisis. But you must be laughing to yourself as he's now blaming Donald Trump for people pouring into our country.
Oh, I've been up here three years now, and I've never seen such a scam of placing blame on Republicans and really the American citizens and the taxpayers of this country, placing blame on them for anything that goes wrong when they don't want to go by the law on anything. They want their way or no way. And then, of course, as you said, elections coming up. Donald Trump was elected in 2016 because he told people, listen, we're going to start building that border wall. He wasn't able to finish. He was on the way doing it. But we're going to build a wall. Well, the same thing is going to happen here. The number one reason that they're going to get beat this time is because they refuse to go by the Constitution and the border laws that we have. And they've infiltrated this country with 10 to 12 million more people. And by the way, there's going to be 2 or 3 million more come across before the election next year. So they're making headway, but we've got to stop this craziness.
Yes. Well, the craziness appears to be this bill that is floating through the Senate right now. I'm not. What is the status of this thing? Is it alive? Is it dead? As of last week, it sounded like Republicans were kind of rallying against it. But a couple of Republicans are all out this week saying, oh, no, it's actually great. You should read the bill. Well, I'd love to. I haven't seen text. Have you?
No, the text's not out. If any Republicans said that they've read the bill, then they've been behind the scenes getting a sneak peek. I don't think anybody has. James Langford talks to us daily on this. He would love to get the text out, but the problem is the Democrats continue to change words. Always remember this: when you make a law, one word can change everything in that 500-page bill, and so lawyers have to look at it. It has to be meticulous because a president gets in that wants to change things. They can say, "Oh, this word means this or that." That's how law works in this country. We've got so many lawyers up here, but no. Listen, and we stood up yesterday and said, "Look, we have a problem. Let's get a bill that fixes the problem. Let's don't get a bill that just overlooks most of the problems, but does just a few things." Everybody said, "Well, Republicans have never had this chance before to make a difference in immigration." Listen, Donald Trump stopped immigration pretty much by the laws on the books now.
Yes.
We really don't need one. This is all really about Ukraine and a lot of these neocons getting $100 billion more for a war that is just raging over there. And they think they can win, but I've never been to that thought because I've been there, I've seen it. And it's they don't have the people really to win this.
Yeah, I mean, I saw Senator Mike Rounds was expressing to Politico this week that, it's like a Russian operation trying to kill this bill. And I'm like, Russian operation? No, it's people who don't want their borders open and won't settle for 5,000 illegals a day. That's 1.8 million a year coming into the United States. That's just unacceptable.
Yeah, and it's not just the southern border now; it's the northern border is up 500% of people. Illegals coming across the northern border. Mike Rounds lives up there. He should understand that. You don't have a country unless you have borders. We owe it to the American people, the hardworking people that are already up, had their coffee, going to work, working till dark, coming home, trying to figure out a way to take care of their kids and their family and pay the bills.
Right.
We owe that to the people that send us up here to make these decisions, not to make up rules and laws and think, hey, this should be the best thing for the people back home. Take care of the people back home. We know how to do that. Is cut back on the laws, cut back on all the regulations, give them a chance to survive, but quit allowing people to come in this country that don't deserve to be here.
Yeah. The sad thing, too, is that it's not merely allowing, it's straight up helping traffic human beings into the country. And it's not just ignoring the border, it's sabotaging it. Because, I know last year you were very concerned about this as it was happening. The Biden administration has been literally auctioning off the parts of the border wall that should have been assembled, should have gone up. Instead, they sold the parts off. Meanwhile, of course, they're destroying Texas's border barrier. You only do that if you're trying to help the cartel operations, not hamper them.
Exactly. I know people that have gone on. You can go on, I think it's something government.org auction, something like that. They are selling off the border wall, the razor wire as fast as they possibly can. I know people that buy it, and most of the time they buy it for 10 cents on the dollar that the American taxpayers paid for this steel. I know people that are buying 300,000 pound lots for 30,000, and it is a disgrace to the American people, to the taxpayers. The razor wire is 20 cents on the dollar. It is insane. And when Donald Trump gets reelected, the American taxpayers are going to have to go back and buy that same steel and razor wire for probably a jacked up price. It is insane what's going on. But again, the American taxpayers need to understand, before you push that button on who you vote for, you better vote for your future and not for the past, because what's going to happen is you're going to ruin the future of our kids across the world.
Senator Tommy Tuberville, are you encouraged at all by the states who have rallied together to push back against the Biden administration when it comes to securing the border?
Yeah, I really am. 25 states have shown support, have sent either law enforcement or National Guard. My state of Alabama, we've sent 500 down to the border that are going to be there for 9 months, and we're going to even continue to send more. It's the most important thing going right now. We have to protect the people across the country. That's our job. That is our job, and it's glad to see that the state governments and they recognize it. But up here, the federal government, we can't get anything right, and we fight amongst each other. But there should be one common goal up here. That's to take care of the American citizens, and that's not on the agenda.
No, it is absolutely not. Taking care of American citizens also includes taking care of our veterans. And I know you're very concerned about another aspect here that unfortunately intersects with illegal immigration. VA resources have apparently been redirected to pay for the health care of illegal immigrants. We've got America's veterans desperately in need of medical attention. Why is this happening?
Well, first of all, I talked about Democrat colleagues on the left in the Senate, and they won't talk about immigration. They have no argument. But you got to remember, when we bring them across, most of them are uneducated. They don't speak the language. So we've got to feed them, we've got to house them, we've got to educate them, and we've got to get them health care. It is an enormous amount of money, billions of dollars that are going to this. And the Biden administration has been scrambling to find health care. Now, the VA, there's 20 million veterans across the country. We can only handle about 9 to 10 million. Now, a lot of them go to their normal health care and use their insurance card. Half of them go to the VA. We started the VAs, smaller VAs in rural areas. And because that was called community care, just to help the ones in the rural areas. Well, now Joe Biden has said, well, we're going to let the illegals use the VAs and the community care in the rural areas where illegals don't have the opportunity for big-time VAs in the bigger cities. It's outrageous. It really is, because now all it's going to do is going to kick our veterans to the back of the line even more and have a tougher time getting health care. There's no answer to this other than if you take them in, you got to take care of them. And Joe Biden, they're scrambling right now. They're scrambling to come up with the money. They're scrambling to come up with the insurance. And I will say this, too. I've talked to people in some of the high schools and elementary schools. They are being overwhelmed by young illegal immigrants that can't speak our language, but the Biden administration is forcing them to put funds into these young people, which is fine. They're here. You feel bad for them, but we've got to educate them somehow. And our education is not even the top 20 in the world, and we should be number one in the world.
It's an atrocity. It really is. Senator Tommy Tuberville, thank you for your attention to all these issues and your time as always. Really appreciate you. Thank you very much.
Thank you. God bless.
God bless you. The state of Oregon decriminalized drugs, and now they're declaring a state of emergency. Who could have seen this coming? Daily Caller, Oregon leaders declared a state of emergency Wednesday, that would be yesterday, to address the fentanyl crisis. Democrat Oregon Governor Tina Kotek, Multnomah County Chair Jessica Vega Peterson, and Portland Mayor Ted Wheeler each issued a 90-day declaration to address public health and safety. Our county and our state have never seen a drug like this deadly and addictive. They're all grappling with how to respond, Kotek said in a statement. The state has seen a surge in overdoses between 2020 and 2022. Roughly 3% of Portland residents left the city in the same time period. More than 60% of Oregon voters now think that the measure 110, which decriminalized the possession of small amounts of drugs, made, quote, drug addiction, homelessness, and crime worse, according to the research. Unintended consequences. I don't know. That does seem kind of like an intended consequence. If you make it, let's make it a lot easier to get hard drugs. Okay, so you did. Wow, a lot more people are on hard drugs. Yeah, it's a nightmare. It's a nightmare. I get it. It sounds good in theory, but then, you get confronted with reality. A total disaster in Oregon. And this, all of these things, illegal immigration is the same deal. It's like, oh, well, we'll just go easy on this and, we'll see what happens. Oh, well, I'll tell you what happens. Here's the New York Times headline today. One big reason migrants are coming in droves. They believe they can stay. That's the headline. And it's obviously true. Why does it take until January 31st, 2024, which is when this was published, for them to say the truth out loud? It takes forever. The New York Times will slowly get there. They say that all of these people who are crossing into the country today, people from around the globe, they write, are streaming across the southern border, most of them just as eager to work, but rather than trying to elude U.S. authorities, the overwhelming majority of migrants seek out border agents, sometimes waiting hours or days in makeshift encampments to surrender. Being hustled into a U.S. Border Patrol vehicle and taken to a processing facility is hardly a setback. In fact, it is a crucial step towards being able to apply for asylum, now the surest way for migrants to stay in the United States, even if few will ultimately win their cases. Where was the old gray lady, which is what they call the New York Times? Where were they how many years ago? The beginning of the Biden administration. Now you're going to say this out loud to your stupid audience who didn't know it until you told them? Oh, it turns out most of these people aren't even eligible for asylum. And they're just coming here because they're exploiting our system. And they're going to get to stay because our system is incapable of actually inflicting consequences on people who break our laws. So that's the situation we have. In December alone, more than 300, this is New York Times, in December alone, more than 300,000 people crossed the southern border, a record number, they write. It is not just because they believe they will be able to make it across the 2,000-mile southern frontier. They are also certain that once they make it to the United States, they will be able to stay forever. And the New York Times finally admits out loud, by and large, they are not wrong. They are not wrong. Of course, it's not a surprise. The New York Times is publishing this now. It comes at the very moment that Joe Biden is trying to pass blame for the crisis onto Trump. Just waiting for that piece. The Times will have it for us, probably tomorrow. A lot coming out tomorrow. We've got a lot of breaking news ahead, including that wild Senate bill. The text is supposed to be coming out soon. When it does, we'll assess and we'll break it down for you right here on WMAL. The great one, Mark Levin, up next.